This story occurred when I was 19. At the time, I worked on a Pizza Hut as the delivery guy. It was a minimum wage job I had back then just so I could earn enough to go to university. I usually started delivering the pizzas after school, so at around 4 or 5 p.m. On the bad days I had to work until 12 a.m. or even 1 a.m. I hated going once it got dark, but I needed the money. It was Saturday, around 12 a.m. when this happened. I just came back from delivering what I thought would be the last pizza. The Pizza Hut was completely empty except for the couple of staff that cleaned it up. I got my bag and was ready to go home, but we received another call meaning I had to deliver yet another pizza. I really hated working past midnight, mostly because most calls at this time would be from either drunk people partying or shady people. I had to wait an additional 15 minutes for the pizzas being made too. The guy ordered 5 pizzas, which I found strange considering it was so late. At the time I probably thought it was from some party or something. They were common on Saturdays. After a couple of minutes, I took the pizzas and put them in the back of my car while I drove to the address I got sent. It was only like 10 minutes away. When I got there, I noticed there was only one house in the entire block. It was like a house in the middle of nowhere. Not gonna lie, I was a bit scared. I parked the car and got out. I took the 5 pizzas with me too, of course. The house was creepy. Like very creepy. There was only one light on inside, so I knew someone was home and this wasn't just a prank call. We received many of those. I got to the front door and knocked 3 times. No one answered. I was getting impatient, so I knocked again. I heard the floor squeak at the other side. After 10 seconds someone finally opened the door. It was a man. I instantly got this awful smell from him. He smelled like he didn't shower in 5 months. It was mostly dark inside so I couldn't really tell apart his face features, but I know he had a scruffy brown beard and was in his mid-40s. He looked like a drug addict. I wasn't very scared at the time, since it wasn't the first time I got an order from a drug addict. He didn't say a word. I was getting uncomfortable, so I handed him the 5 pizzas and asked him for the money. He didn't react. He was as still as a statue. I was very uncomfortable now. I asked him for the money again. This time he did react. He took the pizzas with force and put them in the floor of his house. I was so uncomfortable I just wanted to get out there. I couldn't just leave without the money though. Whenever I came back with the pizzas or with no money, my boss got incredibly angry. So I waited, still waiting for the man to hand me the money. He asked me how young I was. His voice was deep and broken. I think he could sense my fear. I stupidly responded with 19. My tone of voice was shaky. If my facial expression didn't tell him how scared I was yet, then my voice definitely confirmed it. He smiled. He reached to his pocket and got out a $5 bill. Obviously this wasn't enough. Normally you would pay at least $30 for 5 pizzas. He handed it to me and told me he was going to get the rest of the money. He said he left it in his bedroom. This was getting incredibly uncomfortable. The man smiled again and asked me to go get the money with him. I politely denied his request. I definitely was not going into some potential psychopath's bedroom. He looked more angry now and asked again. I again politely denied his request, but he really kept pushing for me to go upstairs with him and get the rest of the money. I think I started shaking. I wasn't really the strong type of guy, so I knew if he had anything bad planned for me I was a dead man. The rest of the story happened so fast I can barely describe it with words. The man got aggressive and held my right arm with force. His hand was warm and dirty and I was incredibly grossed out. I pulled away and somehow managed to get his hand off me. As I said before, I wasn't really a strong guy, but I was sure very fast, so I ran as fast as I could into my car, locked the doors and hit the gas. I was out of there in seconds. While I drove away I could the silhouette of the man try to follow me. Luckily I was going so fast I got rid of him in seconds. This was so horrifying. My arm was red from the force the man applied to it. I drove as fast as I could back into the Pizza Hut. The other employees still cleaning up in there asked me what happened. I guess they must have seen my horrified face. I explained everything to them. I don't know why, but they took it like a joke and nothing serious. Since I had no physical evidence apart from my red arm, I decided to not call the police. I didn't want to be asked questions so late at night, and I figured that the man probably left the house just in case I called the cops on him. The next day I told my boss everything that happened with details. I don't think he even cared about me being alive. He was just mad because I got back without the money. Luckily, he didn't fire me, but I ended up quitting a few months after anyway. Despite the incident, I still went on delivering pizzas, even past midnight. I'm 30 years old now. I have a stable job and I haven't delivered any pizza in over 8 years. Nothing like this has ever happened to me since. I never heard from that man again, or that place. I'm just glad I didn't follow him upstairs that day. I'm a 17-year-old female. This happened a couple of weeks ago when my parents left me home alone for the weekend. It all started on Friday morning. I went to school like every other day. When I got back home, my parents told me they were gonna go away on vacation to a village for the weekend. This was great news. My older brother was in university and my older sister was at her friend's house, which was over 100 miles away. This meant I was gonna be home alone for the weekend. I was really hyped up cause I wanted to invite my friends home. My dad said the village was 200 miles away, so they were gonna go on car, and if anything bad happened I should call either grandma or the police. They told me to not invite more than 2 friends and that they could not do a sleepover. At 6 o'clock they got everything ready and left on the car. Once they were gone, first thing I did was call my 2 closest friends and told them my parents were out for the weekend. To keep their privacy intact, I am going to refer to them as Friend 1 and Friend 2. Friend 1 arrived first. Only took her 20 minutes. We talked for a while and played some games on our phones while we were waiting for Friend 2. I don't really remember when Friend 2 arrived, but it was definitely an hour or 2 after Friend 1. Once she was home we opened all the snacks my parents left for me. We were probably speaking and yelling way too loud. I lived in a boring street, with boring neighbors. They all go to bed at 9 or 10. I told my friends to lower the tone a bit or my parents won't leave me home alone again. By the time we hit 11 we were all pretty bored of playing board games and truth or dare, so we decided to watch a movie. I'll skip the boring details. We put the movie and after no longer than 40 minutes I was getting bored and hungry. I asked Friend 1 if she wanted to order some pizza. Friend 1 told me she was starving. Friend 2 said she really wanted a pizza too. We went on the Domino's page. We ordered 2 medium-sized pizzas. I'm very skinny so I don't normally eat more than a slice or 2. 20 minutes later, someone knocked on the door. We jumped out of the sofa and opened the door. We were all excited. However, when we opened the door, our smiles vanished. The man delivering the pizza had a very strange face. He was very ugly and there was something about him that was very weird. I can't tell exactly what it was. He was very pale, had long curly hair and very creepy brown eyes. He was around 30 years old. He stared at the 3 of us for a few seconds before handing us the pizzas. He didn't smile or show any human emotion. Since it was my house, I took the pizzas and gave him the money. When I handed him the money, he gave me a weird smile and complimented my hair. I normally like compliments, but on this situation it was rather awkward. I told him thanks and closed the door on him. My friends told me he looked like a pedophile and laughed. I laughed too. Friend 1 got some plates from the drawer and cut a slice for each of us. I was having the pepperoni one. We continued watching the movie while eating the pizzas. It all got creepy when there were quiet scenes on the movie. The silence allowed me to hear sounds coming from upstairs. I didn't really think much of this at first. Eventually a really quiet scene came and I heard the floorboards from upstairs squeak. I was confused. Those floorboards don't really squeak unless someone is walking on them. As I said, my parents and 2 siblings were out, so there was no one that could be making those sounds. I whispered to friend 1 about it since she was sitting closest to me. She nodded her head and told me she heard the sounds too. We both looked at each other when we heard it squeak again. We weren't laughing or smiling anymore. Friend 1 had a really worried look on her face. By now, we had all finished our slices of pizza. Friend 2 ate the most. I only really had 1 slice. I continued paying attention to the movie once the sound stopped. It had been like 5 minutes since the last one, so I kind of calmed down about it and blamed it on the low-quality floorboards. However, a few minutes later I heard it again. This time it was a loud floorboard squeak. Friend 2 heard it too. Friend 1 had a very worried look on her face. She was panicking. Now, Friend 1 isn't really a brave nor strong individual. She gets scared very easily. Friend 2 lowered the TV volume so we could hear it better. We all froze in fear as we heard it again. There was definitely someone walking upstairs. What the fuck? Friend 1 jumped out of the sofa and silently walked to the kitchen. She grabbed a knife. Friend 2 got up too. I followed. The 3 of us slowly walked towards the hallway. My house isn't really complex. You have a short hallway that leads you to either the stairs to go upstairs or the main door. To the left of the main door is the living room where me and my friends were. Connected to the living room is the kitchen and the backyard door is in the kitchen. We had no idea how anyone got upstairs since we didn't hear or see anyone from either the front door or the backyard door. "Who the fuck is up there?" whispered friend 1. She was definitely the most scared out of the 3 of us. We all faced the stairs. All the lights were off. We turned them off so when we watched the movie it felt more like a cinema. I took friend 1's knife. Since it was my house I went up the stairs first. I was going very slowly. I kept signaling for my friends to be quiet. Somehow, we managed to get upstairs without making any noise. The second floor has 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It also has a large window that leads to the backyard. Friend 1 was practically shaking. We all froze when he heard fucking footsteps in my parents' bedroom. Friend 1 couldn't even whisper anymore. She could hardly form words. Friend 2 told me she was going downstairs and was going to call the police. I told her to be quick. Me and friend 1 continued slowly walking to where the sounds were coming from. We were being so slow and careful it took us like 2 minutes to get from the stairs to my parents' bedroom. I quickly turned on the lights on my parents' bedroom. No one was there. Everything was intact. Friend 1 felt so relieved. Me too. I gave her the knife while I was going to close the door. Before I was able to close the door I noticed something. Something that made my heart beat 50 times faster. Friend 1 was confused as to why as I started panicking. I whispered to her that my parents' closet is not fully closed. She started panicking. My dad has OCD. He always makes sure everything is perfectly closed. The closet door clearly wasn't. I was so fucking scared. I didn't want to open the closet door because I knew someone was in there. What the fuck? Friend 2 quickly came back upstairs. She whispered to me that she just called the police. She said they'll be here in 15 minutes. I told her about the closet and she started panicking too. We were 3 really young and vulnerable girls, so if there was someone in my fucking house they could probably kill us all. I got the knife and slowly walked to my parents' closet. I could sense the tension build up in my body. I was sweating. My other 2 friends stayed behind in the door to the room. Once I got to the closet, I was fucking horrified to open it. I knew someone was in there. What if they have a gun? I thought to myself. I had to make sure. I pulled myself together and opened it. I let out a scream that sent both my friends downstairs immediately. What I saw in that closet will haunt me forever. I saw a fucking man crouched down in the corner smiling at me. My scream probably woke up the entire neighborhood. The adrenaline going through my body gave me the energy I needed to run to one of the bathrooms and lock myself. The man followed me. Just before he could get me, I locked the door on him. He started hitting and kicking the door. He was shouting like a madman. He kept screaming. He said he was going to rape me and my friends and that he's going to kill us all. I was fucking shaking. I didn't know what to do. I heard my other two friends leave the house through the main door. The man ran down the stairs to follow them, but once they were out he ran back up. He tried to kick down the bathroom door while screaming how he was going to fucking murder me. I have never felt more scared in my entire life. I knew I was going to die. I could see my entire life before my eyes. I was crying in fear. There was nothing I could do. The only window in the bathroom was very small and there was no way I could escape through there. The only thing keeping me alive was the locked door. The man kept punching the door and telling me to let him in. I was easily inside there for 4 minutes crying my life out. The yelling got worse and I felt sick to my stomach. I was so fucking scared I puked on the floor. The man was screaming like a fucking madman. He said if I didn't let him in he would rape my entire family and murder all my friends. I was in the worst possible situation anyone could be in. What happened next can only be described as a miracle from God, and I'm not even a religious person. I heard the police sirens outside. The man stopped kicking down my door. I heard him say fuck. He ran down the stairs and I can tell he was probably trying to run away. I stayed inside there for 10 more minutes before I heard someone knock on the door. I screamed. A female police officer told me everything was fine and that I could come out. I didn't want to, but I opened the door and saw 6 other policemen outside. The policewoman hugged me and took me downstairs where my 2 friends were waiting for me with other policemen. They took me outside. After explaining everything that happened, I saw 2 policemen come with a man. It was the man that delivered our pizza. I recognized him immediately. They told me they found him hiding in my backyard. Why the fuck did this man try to murder us? Who the fuck even was he? The man looked so angry. He gave me a death stare while the policeman put him in the car and took him away. The police contacted my parents. They canceled their plan and were home next morning. I told them everything that happened. Since then, they have never let me stay home alone again. My 2 friends were very disturbed but not as much as me. They didn't fear for their lives like I did. Since that incident, my parents decided it would be best if we moved. We went to a house in a town nearby. I have barely spoken to my 2 friends from that night since. I have their Facebook and Instagram accounts, so we still text each other every so often, but I haven't seen them in real life for over a month now. I haven't been able to sleep over 2 hours a day since then. I keep seeing that image of the man crouched down in the closet. Whenever I close my eyes I see him. I have a huge trauma because some sicko decided to enter my house. I hope nobody has to go through what I went through that night. I'll get straight to the point. I currently work as a pizza delivery guy. I deliver pizzas from 6 o'clock to sometimes after midnight. I'm 20 years old and this incident is very recent. It occurred last week. We received a late order at around 1 in the morning. The guy ordered 2 large pepperoni pizzas and a medium-sized tuna pizza. We're low on budget, so instead of delivering the pizzas in a car, I have to go on a bike. I followed the address the man gave us. 23 minutes away. It was a Friday night, so I was excited to get back, finish my studies for the week and enjoy the weekend. I arrived shortly after to the house. It was very creepy. The house was in some dead empty zone. It was surrounded by a big forest and there weren't any other houses nearby. I looked at the house and it was definitely an abandoned building. Many times we're sent the wrong address, so I called the guy and asked him if it was correct. Not even 2 seconds after, a man with a heavy voice picked up. He confirmed this was the location. I was very skeptical since all the lights were off and it looked abandoned. I got off the bike and walked up to the entrance. I knocked on the door and waited for what seemed like an eternity. No one opened the door. I knocked again and again, no one opened. By now I was getting impatient. I called the guy again and asked him if this really was the correct address. The man picked up almost immediately again and confirmed it was. I told him I was by the door. He hung up. I was getting annoyed now. Is this guy fucking with me? I thought to myself. We've received many prank calls in the past, so I wasn't surprised this may have been another one. I knocked on the door 4 more times. I was out there for what felt like forever. I called the man once again. This time he hung up directly. Okay, now I knew this was a prank call. I shook my head and turned around to get back in the bike. Here comes the creepy part. One of the scariest things I've ever seen. When I turned around to go back, I was so fucking terrified and horrified to see a man's face through the living room window staring at me. His eyes were so big and he didn't seem to have the capacity to blink. I screamed and ran off immediately. I got on bike and not even 5 seconds later, I was out of there. I returned to my pizza place and told everyone what happened. They understood. I was genuinely scared. I still don't know if that was a prank call or if some sicko and potential serial killer was waiting for me to enter. All I know is that that face I saw through the window really disturbed me. I am much more cautious now when delivering pizza. If I see a dark abandoned building again, I am for sure not gonna wait for someone to potentially kill me.